Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy for the year ahead for 2023. First, we're going to break down the numerology and the energy for the collective for 2023. And of course, remember, we are all a part of the collective, so we will in some way, shape, or form feel this energy and have to work with it in some way. So it is relevant. So I highly recommend listening to the intro to that portion. Then we will break it down into each individual life path number, and we will take a look at the energies that life path energy will be working with. So again, if you're a life path 1, you may have a different cycle or an additional cycle that you're working through in addition to that of the collective. So if that makes sense. So we're going to break it down for the collective, and then we're going to break it down for each individual life path number for 2023. Before we get into the forecast, this of course is a general reading. If you would like a personalized reading, this is a great time for your year ahead forecast. We'll take a look at your own personal year ahead cycle, your personal year ahead cycle, as well as your numerology and the transits and the cycles that you have coming up for 2023. And we will break that down to give you greater insight in what you could be personally be potentially working with for the year ahead. Of course, it's always a great time for, to get your Numerology Report run, to have a reading or a coaching session. So if you would like to work with me in any of those capacities, book some time with me. I would love to take a look and to work with you in that way. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. So I cannot believe, I feel like I say this every year around this time, but I can't believe it's almost a new year. But here we are in the closing phases of this 6th universal cycle of 2022, about to embark on another new adventure as we navigate through the 7 universal cycle of 2023. So I think 2023 is going to be sort of a mixed bag. And I say that because the energies of the 7 are very nuanced, right? But they can be very polarizing as well and divisive when in a shadow or within their extremes. So we could say that, we could say that about all the energies really, but the 7 can either use the sum of all of its parts to build a bridge, or it can burn that bridge down pretty quickly. So as always, it's what we choose to do with the energy that ultimately makes the difference. I say that all the time. But it'll be interesting to see how collectively we choose to work with this vibration. Because this can be a very intense, beautiful vibration to work with, but it certainly has its extremes, again, just like with any energy. But the 7 is unique. So basically, the energy of the 7 has 2 very distinct sides to itself: a very practical, pragmatic, logical, physical, investigative, like truth-seeking, knowledgeable, and fact-checking side, which can at times sort of lack trust in the unseen and within itself. It has this sort of energy of seeing is believing and discounting everything else, or not even entertaining anything outside of the seeing is believing belief system. This side of the 7 is very much in the body, so to speak, and it can be very hypercritical of itself and of others until it is able to prove its own point or find the quote unquote truth, right? And as we know, there are some truths that, always sort of give the same result, but then there's also personal truths, and there's truths that, that are based on belief systems, which are constantly changing. So you can see how that extreme could lead to sort of clinging to an illusion that is not real. So then the other side of the 7 energy is very much the opposite. It is very ethereal. It's head in the clouds, very spiritual, very psychic. 7 energy is the most psychic energy in numerology. Now, I would say we all have that, those abilities, right? But the 7 is almost just sort of already tapped into that. It's just what they choose to do with that energy, right? Or that gift. So anyway, it's a very psychic, very sort of playing in the realms of the unseen, seeing beyond the illusions and the limitations of the 3D reality, and embracing the more sort of intuitive, heart-focused side of life. So where the more physical, brain-powered side of the 7 is much more grounded, this other side of the 7 prefers its wings over shoes and is very much driven by feeling and inner knowing. So both sides of the 7 are very much needed and are beautiful in their own ways, right? However, one side without the other causes division, causes lack of trust, causes rigidity or aloofness, over attachment or over detachment. So too many roots or too big of wings and no roots. The vibration of the 7 is off balance when it isn't bridging these two very important sides of itself and finding its own balance between the two. So you could look at the vibration of the 7 as the ultimate when it comes to the union or the merging of the masculine, physical energy and the more ethereal, spiritual, feminine energy. And again, when I speak, I'm going to be talking about feminine and masculine energy as we move through this forecast. And I'm not talking about gender. So I just want to get that out of the way. I know if you listen to my channel that you know the masculine, we all have masculine, feminine energies from within. There are masculine, feminine energies within everything. And so that's what I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the energy when I talk about that. So just as a precursor. Okay, so the 7 is the bridge, or is meant to be the bridge that balances these vibrations, right? So when that bridge is missing, we see imbalance, we see divisiveness, we see extremes of these energies. So one more dominant than the other and sort of out of control. So on a high level, we can view 2023 as a pivotal year when it comes to the collective balancing of the masculine and the feminine energies. 2023 has the potential to be the bridge or the building of that bridge sort of commencing, right? And so we can see if we look at the current state of things and the state of things over the last thousands of years, it's definitely been more masculine energy dominated, right, to an extreme. And so the last few years, especially, we see this rising of the divine feminine energy. There's a long ways for that energy to go to meet the masculine. And really, it's this energy or this sort of balancing act where the masculine energy needs to be brought down a little bit, right, as the feminine rises. And so again, 2023 has the potentiality to be sort of, again, the commencing of building that bridge, of allowing and supporting that feminine energy collectively to rise. And sort of balancing out that more masculine energy. We'll see, right? Because it's always, again, what sort of the collective consciousness, which is humans and, the living beings, right? Like what we choose to do with this energy. And really, I'm looking at you humans, at us. I'm human also. And so, but yeah, so as with anything, we rarely see sort of true progress or solutions without there first being some kind of like breaking point where things have to get worse before they get better. And again, it's like if there's too much light, there needs to be some darkness. If there's too much darkness, the light comes in. And so it's like, again, it's like this balancing. But in order to do that, balancing, to find that happy medium, there has to be some level of chaos. That's just sort of the way it works, right? There has to be that boiling point, that breaking point, to realize where it is that adjustments need to be made. So we have definitely seen this over the last few years. And I think 2023 will sort of be a continuation of that chaos. But I also think 2023 has the potential with this energy to bring to light hidden truths and monumental solutions that we haven't seen before and that help to shift the collective consciousness, sort of moving us closer towards that merging of the masculine and feminine energies, right? And so we will continue, more than likely, to see the feminine energies continue to rise under this 7 energy to meet those masculine energies. So I think we have the potential to make great strides in that direction, right? Of that balancing. I think that this is potentially a year for awareness, for understanding again where it is specifically that we really need to start making some major adjustments and what that looks like, and then coming up with those solutions. And so again, I don't think that everything's going to come to fruition. I don't think much is going to come to fruition under this energy, but it's the commencing of building that bridge, the building the container to support the feminine energy to rise to meet the masculine and to merge. So generally speaking, we could see a greater focus on health and well-being, advancements in medicine and cures for hard-to-treat illnesses, because 7 energy is also, again, it's very physical. It can be very physical. It can be very in the body. And so focus comes to the body and holistic health. And this, of course, would allow for greater longevity and greater quality of life. Holistic health can become even more of a focus, including a greater emphasis on how to manage emotions in a healthy, constructive way, and how to harness all of that powerful energy and channel it into something useful. So emotions are typically thought of as very feminine energy. How we express those emotions is can be very masculine, right? Because it's action, right? So there can be, under this 7 energy, a more focus on emotions and how we use those emotions and how we express them and all of those things, right? Like more of an emphasis on this, because we have been sort of conditioned to suppress that charged energy, which, as we know, it will eventually find its way out in very unpredictable ways. So that can, of course, be very destructive. So there could be more of a focus this year on tools and resources to help all humans sort of find their own best way to express that energy in a positive, constructive way. Also, with this 7 energy, we could see a lot of truth coming to the surface unexpectedly. So secrets being revealed, information that can be that can't be ignored anymore, that has the potential to create major shifts in perception and understanding, as well as shifts in action and outcomes. So 7 isn't energy that sits back and sort of like accepts the status quo at face value without doing a bit of its own digging beyond the surface layer. So if you tell a 7 that the sky is blue, they want to know why. Right? It's like they may believe that, but because they can see it, but they want to know why. They want to know the sort of intricacies. They want to know the hidden details. So we could see this kind of sort of collective investigative work take place this year, where more and more people sort of refuse to just believe whatever they're told by people in quote unquote roles of authority. So does someone or an entity know what's best for you? Maybe, maybe not. But the 7 will do the work to understand as much as possible before they commit to whatever they're being told to commit to. So this energy sort of encourages us to think for ourselves under every circumstance. Now that can be, you can take that to the extreme, obviously. But it definitely, this energy promotes that thinking for yourself, doing the work yourself, coming to your own conclusions based on the information presented to you, as well as your own inner knowing. The nature of the 7 is to be highly sensitive and spiritual, psychic, and intuitive. So it's very, very possible that this year we could see this could be a great year for all things metaphysical to finally come on stage and to take a bow, right? We could see things such as astrology, numerology, psychics and mediums, and other metaphysical sciences and divination tools find its rightful seat at the table, sort of garnering much needed and deserved respect, or at least we may get sort of an invite to the party, right? Even if our seat still isn't reserved just yet. We may not get the public recognition and approval that we deserve just yet, but we could definitely see an uptick in people becoming more sort of drawn to this side of themselves and recognizing the value in not only these services from others, but in growing their own personal gifts in a much deeper way. So we could also see sort of some religions that are more controlling and more sort of prescriptive or, just more like punitive in nature come under fire under this energy for perhaps unethical behavior or corrupt behaviors. So that may come into the spotlight this year. Because remember, the 7 energy is the truth seeker. It's the one who's going to dig deeper and sort of excavate anything hidden to bring it to the surface to be reviewed. And that doesn't just have to be religions. I mentioned sort of like traditional religions, even spirituality. There's corruption. There's all of these things in anything where humans have their hands in it, right? Like anywhere that the ego is involved, there is corruption, right? And so but there's really this sort of more like spiritual, religious, sort of, again, psychic, intuitive nature to the 7 that's more like philosophical and that sort of thing. So it's really, I think, going to be an emphasis on those areas this year, bringing things to light and bringing to the forefront these tools, these the more metaphysical side of things, bringing it to the spotlight, giving us a seat at the table that is much deserved and is, has been a long time coming. And we can already sort of see this happening. I was watching, or I follow Molly McCord, who is an astrologer. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are very familiar with her. And she recently, I can't remember the event that she was at, but it was with all of these speakers who, are like authors and like are, healers and spiritual teachers and spiritual gurus and all of these things, right? And she was invited to that event and spoke about astrology. And I was so impressed by that. Molly is impressive on her own, but I was so impressed by that because that's what I'm talking about when I say it's like astrology, numerology, like psychics and mediums coming to the table, right? And being an active participant in these sort of mainstream events that normally we wouldn't get an invite to necessarily, right? We don't necessarily see that. And so I was really excited to see that. And I hope that that's sort of an indicator of what's to come because I could go on and on. But anyway, so I do think under this 7 energy, we're going to see more and more of that come to light. And I also think that, again, more and more people will start to sort of investigate and explore that side of themselves. So at the core of this universal vibration, the energy will be working towards bridging the seen with the unseen, the physical with the metaphysical, the heart and the brain, the masculine energy with the feminine energy. So this won't all happen this year, right? Little by little, things will be sort of finalized. Like, you know what I mean? They'll come to fruition, will be, solutions will be found. But I don't think that we're going to see that necessarily happen this year. This is like the jumping off point, I think. This is the time for the exploration and the planning, right? There is the potential for many seeds to be planted this year. And those seeds will be ready to harvest in the coming years. So this is like the preparation phase. This is where we start to get the insights and the downloads and all of that, and then start to plan. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at your individual life path number now to see what you're working with for 2023. LifePath 22.4. So I pulled an animal spirit message for you all for 2023, and you got quail energy. Quail's energy is bringing forth a message of the need for like solitude, refuge, nourishment, and solutions. So this is very much aligned with the 7 energy that we're all moving through in 2023, as far as the need for, again, sort of like potential solitude, self-reflection, going within, that sort of thing. And so there could be this need this year for 22s to really make sure that you're setting aside time for your own self-care. Make sure that you are being as flexible as possible as you move through any work projects, any commitments, that sort of thing, so that you can, if you need it, take time out to go to your safe space and your sanctuary and rejuvenate. What I also love about what's coming through with quail is that around solutions. So I do think that this is potentially going to be a year for 22s where if there's anything that has felt like it's sort of been just outside of your reach, again, like some kind of something that's been sort of bothering you, or you've been trying to find the solution for, this could be a year where it sort of comes in like a lightning bolt, and you're able to find that solution, create that solution, whatever, and then move on to the next thing, right? So this could be a year of some sort of completion, or again, like the solution comes in and now you have to build it, right? Because 22s are the master builders. But in order to find that solution, remember that you're going to have to work with others in some capacity. And so again, a lot of times with 22 fours, well, fours in general, we like to come up with a solution on our own. We like to think that we know what is best for everybody, and then we want to create whatever that is so that we can help, right? So that we can show up and we can present this beautiful solution to people. But sometimes what we miss is that piece of, oh yeah, I need to like ask these people what they actually need or what they want, right? Or what they think the solution might be, and can we collaborate and work together to come up with that solution? So there is this energy of community, of again, networking, collaboration to understand what the need is before coming up with a solution. So there is something there around that. And it may also be that even to find solutions to your own problems, sometimes talking that through with somebody, sometimes listening to other perspectives, other experiences can assist you in doing that. So just kind of keep that in mind as you move through the year. I also say that because for 2023, not only are you working with the 7 energy that we all are collectively, but you also are working with this undercurrent energy of the 11-2. And I'm really focusing on that 2 energy because, again, this sort of signifies like relationships, how we relate, how we connect with others. So again, there's something here around working with others, community, collaboration, being open to other people's ideas, other people's needs, that sort of thing. This can also be a year for, I hate to say like significant tests and challenges, because 22 fours are already well equipped to handle that. They're already used to that because, again, you're already on like a master level trajectory. So, I don't necessarily think that it's going to feel any more like challenging or whatever than it probably already has in your journey. But I do think that there could be tests and challenges that come up for you around relationships. Like, again, how you show up to relationships, how you connect with others, how you communicate with others, how receptive you are to other people's involvement and their needs and all those things. So you may see some things come up that are very specific when it comes to those areas. Pay attention to those, because that's where the work lies. That's where there might be some tests and challenges, but there are great rewards associated with that. This can also be a year for 22s where great inspiration can come through. The 11-2 energy 11s are the inspirational leaders. So 11s will bring the inspiration, and 22s are meant to build from that inspiration. So when you're working with 11 energy, this can be a time, again, where just great ideas come through probably from other people. Not that you can't have your own great ideas. You absolutely can. But a lot of times, again, because 22, double twos, is very much about working with other people. And that sense of community, collaboration, all that we talked about. And so the fact that you're working with 11-2 energy this year, I think that some of your greatest achievements, your greatest, again, inspirations and ideas are going to come through other people. So pay attention to that. This can also be a year where you see your goals achieved, where you see things that you've been working on for a really long time come to fruition, come to a culmination where, again, it's like you can actually see the tangible, like the tangible piece of that, right? Like what you've been working on. So this can be a really satisfying year in that sense, especially for 22s, because so much of, like for 22-4s, it's such a slow moving process, right? It's like, it just takes time to build these things that, are meant to sort of be sustainable and last the test of time and all of that, right? So when we see something come through that feels like an achievement, that can feel great. So you can see that this year potentially. So, which is wonderful. You could also see some need for quick decisions. So that's the thing too. Like, again, with 22-4 energy, it's such a slow moving energy. Just again, it's very methodical. It's very, we have to like pace ourselves. There's a lot of like realism that kind of comes in that we have to kind of deal with, work through all of that. There's a lot of patience involved. But this year could bring about experiences, events, whatever, that really require you to think quick on your feet and make some very quick decisions. And I would say, because it's 11-2 energy, it's probably going to involve other people. And so you need to take that into consideration, their needs as well as your own type thing, and what's going to benefit the whole versus just self, or what you taking into consideration what others think is the solution, as opposed to just like your own idea of what the solution is, because what your idea is, right, might actually be the solution. But because this is 11-2 energy, and because you're a 22, again, double twos, your greatest achievements will come through the collaboration of others. And so again, when you have these big ideas, these great ideas for these big solutions, it is going to be a greater achievement when you can run that by someone, when you can bounce that off someone, when you can network, when you can, again, like have that sense of community involvement when it comes to building whatever this is. So, yes, you may have situations where you have to make some quick decisions, but just make sure that if it's relevant, that you are including the other people involved, right? Or you are asking other people their ideas, their advice, whatever. That doesn't mean that you need to take it, right? But you need to be open to it. And this 11-2 energy is going to help you to do that. This can also be a very sensitive year for you all. This is interesting because a lot of times with 22-4s and 4s, there's typically a lot that the 4 has moved through, especially early in life. And so, but it's a very like determined energy. And so it's kind of like we go through these like traumas, these experiences that are very like emotionally, traumatic, right? But we're goal driven. So we're like, we move through it, we move on to the next thing type thing. And we don't fully deal with whatever it is that we need to deal with, because that takes time and that takes energy and all that. And we have all these things we're trying to achieve or whatever. So when we move through an energy that can be very sensitive and emotionally driven, like the 11-2, This can be a year where things do bubble to the surface, where your emotions are at center stage, and especially because we're working with 7 energy collectively. So it's very possible this could be a very emotional year. Or again, things from the past that haven't been fully dealt with resurface. So pay attention to that. Don't brush it under the rug. Don't try to avoid it, because it's just going to keep coming to the surface. It will find its way out. And it may find its way out in very unpleasant ways. So if it comes to the surface, deal with it, move through it. Again, find the assistance that you need to be able to do that. But just know that this could be a year where some things surface emotionally, and you're not meant to just override that. You're meant to feel it, move through it, transmute it. So just pay attention to that. Pay attention to whatever comes up for you, and really work to not avoid it. Because yes, there's a lot that you're moving towards, but you can't get there in the most holistic way unless you deal with what it is that you need to deal with emotionally. This can also be a very, sensitive in the way of like very intuitive year. So again, or psychic, right? So again, it's like you may be feeling that much more deeply this year. 4s in general, and of course 22s, are very much intuitive, very intuitive. There's the outside, the external, the productive or production side of the 22-4, but there's also the internal, right? Like you think of the 4 having 4 walls, right? Like to a room. And so there's the inside of that room, the internal, and the external of that room. Right? So it's a very intuitive energy, very, very intuitive. And so you may find that comes in very strongly this year for you all, especially working with 7 and 11-2 energy. So honor that and use that energy to help you flex that muscle. So incredibly beautiful year for 22s. I think it could be a little bit uncomfortable just because, again, it may be a very highly sensitive year where, again, a lot of emotions are coming to the surface. But if they do come to the surface, remember, it's just to be worked through. So I hope it is a fantastic year for you all, 22s. Thanks so much for being here. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.